I've looked up to him, his professional journey. He's an entrepreneur, so he is in the same lane that I'm in and does things that I love to do. And I figured it would be a great conversation to talk about his entrepreneurial journey.
My name is Marc Thompson Jr. I am born and raised in Queens, New York. For those of you that are familiar with the vernacular, I'm a South Side guy. So when you think about, a rapper that's really popular now, 50 Cent,
Yep.
I'm from the area that he's from. And Miss Harris was the most beautiful woman I had seen at 12 years old. And so when she told me her husband was an accountant, this is a true story, sitting in the back of her class, I said, if accountants get beautiful women like this, when I grow up, I'm going to be an accountant. And I'm like, Chick-fil-A is in New York? I'm like, this could be the ground floor of a rocket ship.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have the capability to do what needs to be done, the only thing you can do is wait productively.
Yep.
What I believe we need more than anything is opportunity to make money. And, obviously education, because if you earn, you can learn. If you learn, you can earn. If you learn and earn, then you're in a position to return. And that's what I was able to do.
Okay, welcome to the new episode of the Miles Side Podcast. This is Myles Munroe Jr., your host. And as always, the vision and goal for this podcast is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations you may think exist, always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right, got a special pod today. Got a great friend of mine, a mentor of mine actually. Been knowing him for a number of years from, I was a young kid running around. He's been in my life. I've looked up to him, his professional journey, him being a husband, a father. He's someone that I really hold high I hold in high regard. He's an entrepreneur, so he is in the same lane that I'm in and does things that I love to do. And I figured it would be a great conversation to talk about his entrepreneurial journey, because it has been a journey for sure. So I want to welcome for the first time to the Miles High Pod, my guy, Marc Thompson. What's good, Marc?
What's good, Charo? What's good, man? I've made it to the Miles High Podcast.
Nah, man.
Super excited. Super excited.
I appreciate you joining in, man. I appreciate you joining in. Well, man, you and I have had countless conversations about, your entire journey up until this point. And, I just want to start off with saying, man, I'm really inspired by you and, where you are and what you've been able to accomplish to this point. And, I always try to find these stories that we can have, that we can talk about, right? And introduce to different platforms about how the journey was, the thinking behind some of the decisions that you made. So I figured that this would be for a great conversation. And, I'm hoping that at least one person could be inspired and empowered by what you have to share today. All right. So I want to let's get started. I want you to give introduce yourself, like give a little bit about your background, where you from, all that good stuff.
All right. My name is Marc Thompson Jr. I am born and raised in Queens, New York. For those of you that are familiar with the vernacular, I'm a South Side guy. So when you think about, a rapper that's really popular now, 50 Cent,
Yep.
I'm from the area that he's from. And so, when you think about music and hip hop and culture, Run DMC, LL Cool J, the Lost Boys, I'm from that part of Queens where Hollis, South Side all come together musically.
Mm-hmm.
My family is a mix of his, hers, theirs, and others, meaning I have a blended family where my biological father and my mom didn't stay together. My mom remarried, they had a kid. And then my parents, my second dad and my mom took in other children from family members and others, and we were all raised in a house. So I don't have any biological brothers, but I have three other brothers, one who unfortunately passed away
Mm.
back in 1997, and then two other brothers, and then I have three sisters. But I also have a lot, because of that family structure, I have lots of brothers and
Yep.
sisters. Myles Munroe Jr. is one of my brothers. Charissa is one of my sisters. I have a big family, a big heart. Grew up educated in public school in New York. And so shout out to Miss Constance Harris, who was my junior high school Spanish teacher. And part of the reason I got in this journey that I ended up on as an accountant is because when I asked her what her husband did for a living, she mentioned that he was an accountant. And Miss Harris was the most beautiful woman I had seen at 12 years old. And so when she told me her husband was an accountant, this is a true story, sitting in the back of her class, I said, if accountants get beautiful women like this, when I grow up, I'm going to be an accountant. So from 12 years old, I knew I wanted to be an accountant. And so went through high school, went to college, majoring in accounting, and then got into my professional life. My first job out of school was a temp job working for Sony Music.
Mhm.
Did that for a little while. Then I got a temp job working at the AP. That turned into a full-time job. And what I'll do, Charles, when we're talking, I'll use real names because I hate when people tell stories, but don't use names because then you can't really tell if the story
It's
is
real or
true.
not? Yep. Yep.
I'll use names.
Okay.
And so my first job out of school, I was hired by a woman named Anna Bellanoso, working for a guy named Lou Piezo at the Associated Press. And they brought me in as a temp, and then a job opened up, and it was a competition between a young lady. Well, she was given the job.
Mhm.
I can't remember her first name, but her last name was Krista Piazzi. And the reason I remember that, it was a name her and her husband made up because she didn't want to take his name. And so they made a name together, combining both of their names, and both of them had the name Krista
Oh
Piazzi.
wow.
To my uh to the plan, just before she was supposed to get the job, and then I would no longer have an opportunity. Her husband got a job out of state, which meant she had to leave. I got to stay, and I became a full-time employee with Associated Press.
Hmm. And you
While with
you were working as an accountant at that point?
Yes, so I came in as what they called a domestic accountant, and
Oh,
I'm young. I'm 21 years old, and I'm working on the domestic accounting desk. And so you think about things like the Oklahoma City bombing.
mhm.
You think about the Olympic bombing. Those are the things that I was responsible for doing the books and records and expenses for on the domestic desk. I did that for about a year and a half, 2 years. Then I got promoted to the international desk. And you think about like the Rwanda tragedy,
Mhm.
the Zagreb Croatian War, the Pakistan, Afghanistan conflict. Those were the kinds of stories that I was responsible for tracking the expenses and the expenses of the reporters covering those stories. So it was, I didn't know I was working on historic events. I just knew I was doing my job at the time.
Mhm.
But in reflection, obviously I was working on some very big, important historic moments, tracking the economics of those things.
Mhm.
So I did the AP for about 5 years, and then I left and went to a small German conglomerate. Bertelsmann AG had a printing publishing arm called Gruner and Yard USA Publishing.
Mhm.
You may not know the company, but you'll know their products: Fitness, Child, Parent, McCall's, Young Miss. Those were the publications.
Mhm.
I did that job for 18 months and got a call from a guy named Cliff Weinstein working for Robert Half, who said, "Hey, Mark, I got an opportunity. Are you a sports guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." He's like, "I got an opportunity at the NFL. Are you interested?" And I was like, I would have been happy if it was the NBA, but I knew that you have to take the opportunities that recruiters call you for, because if you don't take it, you might not get a call again.
Yep.
So I did the interview at the NFL because I wanted to make sure Cliff kept me in his Rolodex. And so I go to the interview, and because I'm not pressed one way or the other, I'm relaxed, I'm calm, and whatever in that conversation, I end up being there were two opportunities, one with the international part of the league and then league office.
Mm-hmm.
And they were competing against me or for me. Dave Blasick ran international. A guy named Peter Lops was running the league office. And the guy that was the treasurer and eventually became the CFO, Joe Seclair, said, he's going to the league office because that's where I need him. And so Joe was the tiebreaker, and I ended up working for the league office. I joined the league office in June of 98, and I left the league in January of 2006. I left because I had been in my role for a while, and I got passed over 3 times for an assistant controller position. And at this time, Roger Goodell, he wasn't the commissioner yet. He was my mentor. And so I went to him and I said, Roger, look, I've been passed over 3 times for a job that I think I'm really qualified for. I'm not asking you to do or say anything, but here's what's going to happen. In 90 days, I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to have 3 job offers and you're going to help me make a decision about where I should go. And Roger was like, Mark, I'm not paying you to go find another job. I said, I'm going to use my sick time, my vacation time. I'm not going to cheat the company. I said, but clearly there's a disconnect between what I think I can do and what the finance leadership think I can do. And so we just need to part ways. And so I did what I said I was going to do. I went out into the marketplace and I had 3 job offers, one from a company called, at the time, Lucent Technologies, then a place called Ajax, and then one from GE.
So how did you know you would be able to land 3 jobs? Like seems like an obscure number. Why not 4? Why not 2? Why not 5? You know.
It was just the number that came to me, Charles. Okay. I was like, I thought it was a flex just to be able to say 3. You know what I mean? I was just trying to be like, yo, I'm gonna go out here, I'm gonna go get it out the mud, and you're gonna see somebody cares enough about what I'm able to bring that they're gonna be attracted to it. That's all it was. It was just a number that I thought made sense.
Okay.
It was better than 1, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna come to you with 1 and 2. So I just said 3. It wasn't, it was just me talking, to be honest.
Was your thought that I'm going to get these 3 offers and use it as leverage to maybe get another opportunity at the NFL office?
No, because one of the things, and this is something that's really important for young people to understand, right? You never take a counter offer. And so I already knew that. At that point, I had like 14 years of experience in corporate America. And so I knew that you don't take a counter offer, because here's what happens if you take the counter offer. You give up the job that offered you, and now the job you decide to stay at, they know they got you. And if they decide to change their mind, now you lost 2 jobs. So I never ever would have accepted a counter offer.
But what if the counter offer is a sweet offer though?
So the thing is, if you really wanted me, I was here. Why didn't you make that available before I told you I had something else?
Because they would have, sometimes they need you to show your value or know your value in a sense, right? Because I'm, as an employer isn't going to offer an employee a position or a raise just because they feel like it, right? There has to be some value attached to it. So a lot of times, we would want persons to show their value or show the benefit, right, of either promotion or salary increase or whatever. So that you don't think that's a good perspective?
No. So my view is, because the way I approached, and this is obviously from Pop's teaching, right? Understanding your potential, releasing your potential. When you understand that work is the only place where you can convert your potential to proven results, I'm always about telling the story of how I made my contribution. So whether I didn't wait for, in accounting, you don't have to wait for a year before you talk about what you got done. You either have a monthly close or a quarterly close, right? You have audits. So I'm always talking about, well, look, this is what I did this month. This is what I did this quarter. This is what I did during the audit. I'm constantly telling the story of how I'm contributing and making things better in my conversations with managers and people that I report to. So I was confident that they knew what I could do and they were aware of what I was contributing. They just didn't value it the way I thought it should be valued. And so we needed to part ways.
Got you. So how did you make the decision on which job you're going to take? Was Roger Goodell heavily involved with that?
Yeah, he and I sat down and we went through it and we talked about it. And we both learned. I knew I was going to go with GE, but the way we talked about it was which was going to give me the best opportunity to accomplish my dreams. And the NFL was a great place to work. I enjoyed my time there. But the way I described the NFL, you know, think about what's your favorite car? Like your dream car, what would you be driving?
It's changed over the years, but right now it's I guess the Lamborghini Urus.
See, and I was gonna say a Lamborghini because I knew you would like a Lamborghini, right? So imagine you have your Lamborghini and you're on this beautiful open country road, but there's a farmer's tractor in front of you. How frustrating is that, right? And that's what I felt like at the NFL. I'm this Lamborghini who has all this horsepower under the hood, but because it's a small organization, there's only going to be one controller, only going to be one finance executive, only going to be one CFO, only going to be one treasurer. There's not going to be a lot of opportunities. This is everybody's dream job. You don't want anybody to be harmed, so you're not waiting for somebody to get hit by a bus. You're just going to be parked behind this farmer's tractor. GE was more like the Autobahn, multi-lane highway, and you can go further faster because there were more options. And that's what I decided. GE as a multi-lane highway versus the beautiful one-lane country road was going to give me the opportunity to move further faster in developing the leadership and the capabilities that I believed I had.
Now I got to ask this first though. So did GE give you the biggest money offer as well, or was it at another organization, but GE had better opportunity?
So GE and Ajax, because Lucent Technologies, all of them were six-figure offers, but GE's offer was better because Ajax offer, they gave me a number to start, and then in the year 2, they would take something off the top because it was like a signing bonus.
Okay.
GE gave me a signing bonus and a salary, and they were just better situated than Ajax for me.
Got you. Okay. All right. So let's talk about your time at GE. This is when you, I guess, fully dived into corporate America in a sense, right? This GE was your longest tenure, right? As far as holding a job, and you worked in an accountant capacity there for a lot of years. I'm sure you gained a lot of knowledge, made a lot of connections, a lot of friendships, relationships, you know, all of those good things. But how was it? Let's talk about your time at GE.
Yo, shout out to my man Charles White. Charles White is a mentor of mine, good friend of mine, and while he was with me at the NFL, and when he watched me get passed over 3 times, we had a conversation in his office, and I call it one of my life-changing conversations, right? Because in his office, Charles cared about me, and he said, "Mark," and Charles, you've seen the transformation, so you'll laugh at this. He's like, "Mark, you're fat, black, and happy, and you need not to be. They're not going to give you the job for whatever reasons, and so, you know, you need to think about what you're going to do next." And, you know, it hurt my feelings, right? Because they used to call me the mayor at the NFL because everybody knew me, everybody liked me, but I wasn't going to get what I thought I should get out the deal. And Charles just gave it to me straight, no chaser. And he said, "You need to think about where you want to go." And he's like,
how long was this before you made the transition to GE?
Oh, bro, within 6 months. Like, you know me, I don't play, Charlie. You tell me something true, I'm gonna respond to it quickly.
Wow. Okay.
So Charles said it, and then he's like, "Go work on a list of companies you want to work at." And I know it's gonna sound corny, but at the top of the list was GE.
Oh, wow.
GE was the #1 company that I wanted to leave the NFL for. And so then he's like, "All right, we got the list," because on the list was places like GE, Walmart, Colgate, Palmolive, Procter and Gamble, like all of that.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, now let's find who do you know at any of these companies. And my brother Scott Brown knew a guy named Archie Elam, whose wife name is Debbie Elam at the time. She worked at GE in HR, and Scott got my resume to Archie. Archie got it to Deb. Deb put it on a platform, and all the controllers inside of GE could see my resume. And a guy named Roger Favano, funny enough, Roger Goodell, Roger Favano, Roger Favano sees my resume, and he reaches out to me while I'm in Arizona. I'm at the Arizona Cardinals conducting an audit. He calls my cell phone and he's like, I got your resume. Are you still interested in GE? And I'm like, absolutely. And so when I got back from Arizona, they set up an interview, and I had interview. It was a full day of interviews, like a 9-hour day.
Jeez.
In 3 different locations in Connecticut, interviewing for jobs. And I was like, man, they're just testing my stamina. Like, this is a lot.
Yeah.
But they came back with the job offer, and I ended up taking the job with GE Real Estate. And my immediate manager was a woman. She's the best manager I've ever had in the world. I still talk to her. Her name is Stephanie Jimenez. Stephanie was the best, and she helped develop and prepare and train and mentor me, and she got me ready for all the opportunities, right? And so I was at GE for maybe 2 months. So I started in January. This is like March, April. And I'm like, I came to Stephanie, and I had a 2-year learning plan that required that I go to Crotonville every 6 months. And when, Crotonville was the learning academy. It was like the world famous place where you went to learn GE's leadership training. It was the elite of elite places inside corporate America, when learning universities were like the thing that big multinational companies did. So when I presented her all these classes that I wanted to take, she was like, Mark, how are you actually going to get any work done if you're taking all these classes? And I said, I commit to getting the work done. Do you commit to funding me going to the classes? And she goes, if you get the work done, I'll fund the classes. So now remember, I started in January. I got my first promotion to assistant controller in July.
Oh, wow.
Now that July, the assistant controller role is the role I got passed over for 3 times at the NFL.
Wow.
And I got the job at GE, a much bigger balance sheet. This was, when I started at GE, my first meeting with the finance team, they were talking about growing the balance sheet from $25 billion to $50 billion.
Oh, wow.
That's how much they were going to grow the balance sheet while still making $150 million a year. These were numbers that I didn't see, at the NFL in a revenue kind of sense, right? And I'm the controller, and in July is the first time, July 2006 is the first time I go to Crotonville. Every 6 months on target, I was at another class in Crotonville. I went to Crotonville so often that, because this, Charles, I eat the same thing everywhere I go all the time, right? So I could be late to dinner, and when I would pull up to the table with a group of friends, the hostesses had seen me so often, by the time I would pull up, somebody would be bringing the cranberry juice, somebody be bringing the grilled chicken with the fries, and they're like, "Hey, Mark, when did you order?" I'm like, oh,
they just know.
My private club. Yeah, like, this is my private club. I'm here a lot. They know me. And that was my flex and my swag, because Stephanie was willing to fund my development, and because I kept doing the work and putting in the effort, she got me the opportunities I needed to get.
So let's talk about your, let's get a little personal right quick, right? Because you initially said that, when you were 12 years old back in school, your Spanish teacher, you asked her, what does her husband do for a living? She said, an accountant. You said, man, if an accountant could get this beautiful of a lady to be his wife, that I want to be an accountant, right? So at which point in this journey where did you meet your wife and you guys got married? I want to introduce you to the Munroe Global app. the ultimate platform to empower your leadership journey and inspire your purpose-filled life. Access timeless teachings designed to help you grow in every area of your life. From leadership development to personal growth, Munroe Global has it all at your fingertips. With the Munroe Global app, you'll have exclusive access to powerful videos and messages from the legendary Dr. Myles Munroe, a digital library packed with life-changing content right at your fingertips, and a vibrant global community of visionaries, leaders, and change makers just like you. Whether you're at home, on the go, or in the office, the Munroe Global app ensures you never miss an opportunity to learn, grow, and lead. Available now on Google Play and the Apple App Store, the Munroe Global app is your gateway to unlocking your potential and impacting your world. Download the Munroe Global app today and take the first steps toward living the life you were born to lead.
Okay, so Jesse and I met in 1992, and when we were talking, like, she went to the same. So shout out to my man Cyril T. German. Cyril is my guy. I've known him for we're approaching almost 35 years, and he said one day I was talking to him, like, man, Mark, I met your wife. Like, you met my wife, and when you meet my man Cyril, he's a different kind of dude. So I'm like, Cyril, I'm not sure you met my wife. Like, I'm not sure. And he's like, nah, I met your wife. I'm telling you, I met your wife. And so he introduces me to Jesse. And at the time, you know, I like women with long hair, and Jesse had this short haircut. And I'm like, oh, she cute, but, you know, her hair not long. I don't know, right? Yeah. He's like, bro, you bugging, right? So, you know, my brother Demo is a rapper, and she needed a rapper for some event. And so I connected her and Demo, and that's how we got to talking. And then, so we started off as friends. And then one day I just asked her, I said, do you cook? And she goes, yeah, I do. And I said, okay. That was the second question I asked her after I asked her her name. I asked her, did she cook? I said, oh, that's good. Cause I said, I can't deal with a woman that doesn't cook. I was, you know, that's where I was at that time in my growth and development. Right. So, you know, we started talking, but we officially started dating in 1994. And that's when I met you. Well, that's when the first time I met Pop is when we came to the Bahamas for Youth Alive in 1994. And I was blown away at the fact that this national figure was so accessible. But I know you want to know more about me and Jesse, so let me get back there. So Jesse and I are dating. We come out to the Bahamas because my brother Demo's performing as a part of Youth Alive 94. And we were dating for like 18 months. And then one day it just hit me like, this is the woman. She has the values, she has the vision, she has the capabilities. She fits what I'm looking for. This is who I want to be with. Man. And so I had her meet my brothers. I had her meet my parents. You know, like, she met my brothers. She met my sisters. And then I was like, hey, you know, it's good. All of them like you. I said, but
Mom Dukes.
I meet Mom Dukes. I said, if Mom don't like you, it's going to be a wrap. I said, so and the crazy thing was we were at a church event, and I was with this other girl that my mother really didn't like. And her and my mother and Jesse ended up sitting next to each other, and they didn't know each other. And my mother said to herself, this is the story my mother tells, why can't Mark be with somebody like this? And so at the end of the service, when I woke up to my mom to greet her, and Jesse standing next to her, and I greet Jesse, my mother's like, you know her? I'm like, yeah, that's Jesse. And she's like, wow. I didn't know, how do y'all know each other? I'm like, oh, we go to the same church, da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, so obviously when I introduced her, like, hey, Mom, I'm dating her now.
She was excited.
I was like, this is it's an answer to prayer. Like, thank you, God. Yeah, you know, all of that.
Oh, man. And how is she with, because, you know, obviously you went from AP to NFL to GE. How was, like, what was her feedback or encouragement, you know, through that process of the different transitions you went through professionally?
Yeah. So Jesse and I were not even married yet when I got to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
We had just got married in January of 1998,
Okay.
and I came to the NFL in June of 1998.
Okay.
So when we got when I was making the transition from Gruner and Yar, USA Publishing, to the NFL, she was with it. You know, it was a pay bump and all of that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL was sexier than G and J
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. So she was fine. And we didn't know what the future would hold, but we just knew the NFL would be better
Mm-hmm.
than what Gruner and Yar was offering.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then the I guess being passed over for
Yeah.
the promotion at the NFL and saying, yo, think I'm gonna be out. Like how was that conversation? Was she supportive? Was she nervous? Did she ask if tell you maybe you should think about it and stay for a little while longer? How was that?
No, well, because Jesse's an entrepreneur and she's a risk taker
Mm-hmm.
by virtue of the way she shows up. So she's like, "Hey, if this is what you want to do, go do it."
Uh,
Like,
so
yeah,
she gave you a full support.
full support.
Ah, that's dope.
Full
That's dope. That's dope. Well, you at G for quite a number of years. I'm from I know you were promoted a few times and pay bumps a few times and
Yeah.
very successful, right? Very successful on this journey and your time at GE. Um, but there came. I don't want to tell your story because I know the story,
Okay.
right? But there came a time where there was some
Yeah.
challenges. GE experienced some challenges, and they had to make some tough decisions. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, I like to talk about life in like 5-year increments,
Mm-hmm.
right? So from 2006 to 2011, I'm at GE and it's happening for me.
Mm-hmm.
I go from assistant controller to controller of North America. I go from controller of North America to an FP&A senior analyst, and then I get the thing that I was looking for. I get to go and become an executive.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the AAF and the Four Horsemen: Jameer Jackson, Thomas Kendidi, Bill Lacey, and Joe Allen. They were four leaders inside the finance function at GE
Mm-hmm.
that took to me, cared about me, and helped cultivate and develop me as I was trying to learn how to become an executive in the finance function.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, they're still in my life. We have a text thread that we talk on, and these guys are doing big things around the world, and they continue to share and impart and be an input into my life. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't have gotten where I've gotten without their help, right? Because they got me in front of uh, Peter Mondani, who was the HR leader for the CFO of the company, Keith Sharon, and getting me in front of him and set up the stage for me to differentiate myself. And I set the goal to become an executive in July of 2006. I gave myself 5 years to get it done. And fortunately for me, I got it done by May 2011.
Wow.
So then from May 2011 to June 2016, I was CFO, I was a managing director, things were going well. And then on April 10th, 2015, Jeff Immelt, the CEO of GE at the time, announced that GE would get out of financial services.
Mm-hmm.
And to no fault of our own, about 100,000 people would then have their jobs disrupted. And I was one of the 100,000 people that would have their job. Maybe it's 40, 50,000. Maybe I'm exaggerating on that number
Mm-hmm.
because time and change. But there was a lot of people around the world whose jobs were going to be affected,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was in that number. And so while you're thinking about what you're going to do next, a mentor and friend of mine, Shelly Cleveland, says, Mark, you need to think about starting your own business.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Shelly, I'm an accountant. I'm a finance guy. I'm not a back of a napkin kind of entrepreneur.
Yep.
That's not going to work for me. I need structure. I need systems. I need processes. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I hear you. You need to pray about it. You need to think about it. You need to run your own business. She says, because you've had a lot of autonomy here at GE and you're a big leader with a big personality. I would hate to see you go somewhere and they break your spirit because you're trying to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 45, 46 years old at the time. I said, Shelly, I'm a grown man. I said, nobody's going to break my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'll walk away before I let somebody break my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started thinking about what it would look like if I needed to do something different. And I had to be in the city for a meeting. And this is after, just before I would walk away from GE. I had to be in the city for a meeting.
So hold on. So before you get to that part of the story, I want to talk about the experience of being let go at GE and then the challenges you immediately faced, right? So yeah. I've known you for a long time, and I've always known you to be a guy that was really secure in your finances, right? You were very shrewd in how you operated, right? And I'll tell a quick story. You and I think you guys, I don't know if you guys came down to the Bahamas or I was in New York at the time, but we had gone out to eat to get a bite, me, you, and your wife Jessie. And after dinner, you paid for the meal. Thank you for that, by the way. You paid for the meal, and you took the receipt and you pulled out this book and you wrote something down in like this little book. It could have been a book or a sheet of paper, something, but I know it caught my attention. And I was like, yo, what's that? What are you doing? And before you even got to answer, Jesse was like, oh, Mark, he keeps track of every dollar he spends. You still got it?
That's what I do.
He keeps track of every dollar he spends. So you wrote the total amount from the receipt on this little piece of paper in this book and tucked it in your pocket. I was like, yo, what is that? And man, when you told me that story, I was like, yo, like that kind of, it sparked the importance of like keeping a budget and keeping a tally on like where your money is going and all of your expenditures and stuff. And that was a defining moment for me personally, because it was the opportunity. It was an opportunity for me to see someone who, was doing well, and in my eyes was super successful in everything that he was doing. And this was even before you got into entrepreneurship, right? You were just successful in your profession, and to see someone like you who is successful, but you're still, disciplined in your finances, that stood out to me, right? So I'm saying all that to say, like, you were let go from GE, so you didn't have a job, but you were still able to survive. So even before you made this next transition, I want you to talk about like maybe you might not have known it at the time, but you were well prepared for being let go, right? I'm sure you got a severance package and whatnot, but even in addition to that, you still had a financial structure in place to where you were still able to support yourself and your family, in that during that phase. So let's dive into that a little bit.
Yes, sir. The again, going back to Pop's teachings, right? When he talked about, how can you ask for leadership if you can't manage? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you ask God for a house and your apartment's not clean? Mm-hmm. How do you ask God for millions if you don't manage the pennies, mm-hmm. right? And so I took that to heart and I just applied it. And then there's another mentor. I never met him personally, but I read all his books and all of his tapes and the products and content that he produced, a guy named Jim Rohn. Mm-hmm. And he talked about building a financial wall around your family that nothing could get through. Mm. And so, that's a combination of saving and investing in insurance that I took to heart. And I just have been doing that as long as, it started when I got married. I don't want you to think I was doing this as a teenager, mm-hmm. but once I took on the role of a husband, I knew I needed to be accountable and be able to show the stewardship over finances that would give the stability, the certainty, the security that women require to keep the family moving in the direction of the vision that I had. Mm-hmm. And so from 1998 until today, I could run you a report that will show you every
Every
dollar
dollar.
that has come into my hand, what has happened to it.
Yeah, that's
I
crazy
can,
because I can't account. I could account for the last 15 years. I've I've been good with that, but over 15 years ago, I can't account for that.
but that's because of Quicken. I use Quicken. Quicken keeps the records. It's not like it's in my
No, no,
head.
no, that's fine. At least you have the record somewhere. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't have those records. Nah, but that's dope though. That's dope.
Yeah, the whole idea is, you got to have a plan. I used the plan that Jim Rohn provided, which was a 70-10-10-10. It's like 70% toward expenses,
Mm-hmm.
10 toward charity, 10 toward savings, 10 toward investing. And then as your numbers grow, the ratios toward expenses changes
Mm-hmm.
and the ratios toward giving and investing and saving go up.
Mm-hmm.
And so that plan, you start with a plan, doesn't mean you get the numbers exactly right,
Mm-hmm.
but you start with a plan, you start with a structure, and then you build. And as you get momentum, things change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was able to apply, and that's has served me really, really well.
No, that's for sure. And this is one of the things I spoke about, like literally on my last part, right? The importance of planning and how planning is so effective in so many areas of our lives, right? Because it allows us to be able to meet challenges and be able to pivot more easily because the plan is already in place, right? And we've been implementing and executing this plan over a period of time, and it prepares us for the unexpected in a sense. So that's
And like Mike Tyson says, everybody got a plan till they get
they
punched in
get
the
punched in
face,
the
right?
face. Absolutely.
And, and when GE punched me in the face, because I plan to be a CFO of one of GE's companies,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you get punched in the face, and then you gotta, think
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And so I get punched in the face. I'm going to a meeting, and on my way to the meeting, I see Chick-fil-A on the corner of 6th Avenue and 46th Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Chick-fil-A is in New York? I'm like, this could be the ground floor of a rocket ship.
Mm-hmm.
So I called Shelly after that meeting, literally while I'm walking back to the train. Shelly, I just saw a Chick-fil-A in New York City. Are they growing in New York? That's a Southern thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, I don't know, but there's a former GE guy, Chris Thomas, shout out to Big
Mm-hmm.
Chris, who is at Chick-fil-A. Maybe he can tell you more. So Chris and I were aware of each other, and we had similar circles of friends, but he and I weren't necessarily friends at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So Shelly introduces me to Chris. Chris and I have a quick conversation, and he's like, look, I can't help you, but I'll put you in touch with, and shout out to my man Marlon Terrell. He's an operator in New Jersey
Mm-hmm.
who now has 2 stores, multi-unit, one of the rare multi-unit operators
Mm-hmm.
in Chick-fil-A. And he and I have a conversation. Marlon takes my call, and we're talking. I'm giving him a little rundown on my background,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, look, there's part at that time, 2016, there's 80,000 people that apply. Chick-fil-A only picks between 150 to 200,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I got through the funnel at GE. If it's for me, it's for me.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah. I said, so do you think I should apply? He says, Mark, I encourage you to apply.
Mm-hmm.
So I apply, and I start going through the process, and I get to the point where they say, hey, you know what? We're interested. And they say, look, it's going to take 2 years before we kind of know what's going to happen. And so they took every minute of every day of 24 months. And on August 3rd, 2018, I did what is called ring the bell.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you get through all the interviews and they select you to be an owner operator. And I must have had no less than a dozen to 15 interviews
Wow.
with different people at different times. And the thing that Chick-fil-A is really good about is understanding the why you want to do this. And for me, going from corporate America to entrepreneurship was 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
One, I wanted the autonomy, and we could talk about how the myth of entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
because you think you get more freedom when you're an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
or that's the social media message
Yep.
that you're free, and you get, but I have found
Yo.
I'm less free than I was in corporate
Yep.
America. I have more autonomy than I did in corporate
Yep.
America. And then I also get to be a job creator in my community.
Mm-hmm.
Those two things, the autonomy and the job creation, are the things that I value most at being an entrepreneur.
But it was also the structure for you, right? Because there are different types of entrepreneurs, right? So from your background in accounting and the structures that you were used to, and especially coming from corporate America, there were structures in place, and you had like, I got to do this at this time and accomplish this, and you had
So
all of these things
that's
in place.
absolutely a fact.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, that's absolutely a fact. Because franchising, the reason I decided to go into franchising as an entrepreneurial endeavor
mm-hmm.
is because it best mirrored what I thought I was capable of doing inside a structured venue.
Yep.
So Chick-fil-A brings the systems, the structures, the processes. I bring the leadership, the entrepreneurial drive, the care about the community, and we combine it and we build something together that has impact and is transformational.
Yep.
And I'm grateful.
Nah, cool. So you got the call that you were accepted in the fold of 200 out of 80,000. Congrats on that. And then I think they told you that in a 12-month period your store would be open, right?
Yeah, so we're sitting in the interview. It's August 2018, and they're like, "Yeah, Mark, we expect you to be open October 10th, 2019."
Mm-hmm.
And I start laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman interviewing me at the time, her name was Maureen, and she's like, "Mark, why are you laughing?" And I said, "You don't know why I'm laughing?" She's like, "No." I said, "Anybody that knows me knows that I've been talking about by the time I'm 50 years old, I'll be out of corporate America. I didn't know what I would be doing. I could have been pastoring. I didn't know.
Yep.
But when you said October 10th, 2019, the store would open, that's my 50th birthday,
Dope.
literally.
Dope.
I was like, I knew I was throwing a big party, and now the party going to be even bigger.
Yep.
We're opening the store.
Yeah.
That's going to be a busy weekend, right?
Yep.
And because I know they open stores on Thursday, on Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays in Chick-fil-A for their opening weekends, right? So we have that conversation, and she's like, "Well, that's the date you're going to open." So I'm working at Nielsen at the time. Again, shout out to my man, Jameer Jackson. He was the CFO at Nielsen at the time, and he pulled me over to do some work. So I'm working at Nielsen at the time, and Nielsen goes through a restructuring, and I raise my hand like, "Hey,
I'm out."
I'll take that package because this is June, and I just got to get from June to October. Right? I'm like, oh, this is like hitting the lotto. I'm going to get a small bag, then I'm going to get a bigger bag, right?
Yep.
So I get the bag and I leave, and I'm just hanging out. And then October 19 comes by, and they're like, "You know what? It's not going to be ready. We got some delays due to New York City laws and requirements." And fine, got it. And then the pandemic comes in February 2020, and everything shuts down for as long as everything shut down. And so, I'm in, we talked about this. I'm in what's called a holding pattern.
So before you get to this story, because this what I want to get to, right? So from 2018, right, when the store was supposed to open, you officially didn't open until what was the year?
September 2022.
22, right? So we're talking a 4-year span where you.
October 2019 is when I'm supposed to open.
Oh, okay.
I get selected in August of 2018.
Got you.
Yeah.
So 2019, you're supposed to open. You don't open until 2022, right? So that's a 3-year span now where you're just kind of sitting in limbo, had all of these expectations. And then there's just delays on delays on delays with, the city, this and this limitation of that, and this isn't done correctly. So, it was a period where I'm sure like you could have asked yourself, man, like, did I make the right choice? Is this something that this is something that I'm sure that I want to do. Will this ever happen? But your experience was kind of different, and I like this story because I'm sure like there are a lot of us that go through this, right? We have these plans and expectations, and when things don't work out the way we want them to, we tend to get frustrated and sometimes quit, right? But I want you to talk about this here and like tell us how you approach this delay, this holding pattern that you as you describe it, and then how you got through it. Do you feel like there's more to life than what you're experiencing? That deep down you're meant for something greater? It's time to stop wondering and start discovering. At the Munroe Institute of Leadership, we believe every person carries a unique purpose, a calling designed specifically for you. Our transformative courses, Discover Purpose and Unlock Your Potential, are crafted to help you uncover that purpose and equip you with the tools to step confidently into your destiny. These powerful courses are for leaders, entrepreneurs, students, and visionaries like you. Through proven principles and actionable insights, you will clarify your vision and set bold goals. You will identify your strengths and passions. You will overcome the barriers holding you back, and you will step boldly into your God-given potential. Our expert facilitators draw from timeless and tested principles, blending practical strategies with kingdom truths to empower you to lead a life of purpose, impact, and transformation. The world needs what you have to offer. Don't let another day pass without unlocking the greatness within you. Visit our website, themill.org, and register today. The Munroe Institute of Leadership. Renew your mind and transform a generation.
So, and again, I got to give credit to Pop because there's a message he taught, the first message he preached in January of 2011 called Rediscovering Kingdom Authority. He talked about he was flying somewhere and the pilot in the plane says, "We've arrived, but we're in a holding pattern because they got to clear some things up."
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that sermon in 2011, but it wasn't until 2019 to 2022 that I really had to apply it.
Yep.
Right? Because everything else was in motion. I had to wait. Jesse and I, we had to wait for Nia's conception and birth. That was a holding period, but that I didn't have that teaching in my head at the time, mostly because the year of 2011 was the year all of those things were happening, right? So this is 2019, and I have an opportunity to reflect, and I'm like, man, this is a holding pattern. And what I used the time to do was to learn. So I connected with lots of other Chick-fil-A operators to learn and to ask questions and to get wisdom and to get strategy and to get structure and to just soak up what I could, because I couldn't necessarily be in their stores because of COVID, but I wanted to hear from them and learn from them. And to their credit, James Perry, Keith Singletary, Pamela Moncrief, Tiffany Burgess, and, when you start naming names, then you leave people out. William Barge, Kevin Young, Oscar Fittipaldi, like Paul Daniels, Amon McConan, like they just grabbed me and helped me and really invested in my development. And so they would always say, "Man, Mark, you're so patient." And I'm like, guys, don't get me wrong. I'm not a patient person. Ask my wife, ask anybody that knows me well. My dad, my second dad, he laughs at me because whenever I'm driving, I'll drive 5 blocks out of the way to avoid a red light. Like, I just don't like stopping. I love to be in motion. And this was a trying time, but the thing that gave me peace was, one, I knew I had arrived at my destination and things just needed to clear up. But 2, I'm an accountant. I'm a finance guy. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a construction guy. If Chick-fil-A had given me the money and the blueprints, I still couldn't have built the store. So when you don't have the capability to do what needs to be done, the only thing you can do is wait productively.
Yep.
And what I mean by wait productively is do in the time that you're waiting things that build your capability to be productive. And so I was reading, I was going to classes, I got my master's degree in organizational leadership. Like I was doing things that was preparing me to be productive once I landed. Once the plane landed, I would be able to hit the ground running and be productive.
So that productivity paid off, right? You were in this holding pattern, you were in this waiting period, but you were productive during that waiting period, right? And in 2022, your shop opened, and man, opened on a high note. I remember visiting the store during that period when it was open, and I guess remember inside wasn't open, but the outside was open, and you were in this plaza in your neighborhood. By the way, you were able to open in the neighborhood that you grew up in, right?
Yes,
and you had the cars wrapped around the entire lot, man. So that was definitely successful, I would say.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want to talk about some numbers in the success, right? Because you and I have had this conversation, man, and it's just, I feel it's a great testament to your journey, right? Your journey to this point, the not getting the promotion you wanted, to having to now leave another job and growing in that job and getting to a point where you felt like, man, this is good, I made it. And then, just like that, at the snap of a finger, the company saying, man, we are transitioning this portion of the company outside. So, your job is redundant at this point. So having to get laid off. And then changing your mindset, right? And saying, man, I could think from an entrepreneurial perspective now, and then hopping into the idea of owning a franchise, right? And then finally getting to the point where you could open your doors. And let's talk about how successful those first 28 months was, man.
Man, when again, when you talk about Ephesians 3:20, like more than you could ask, think, or imagine. So in our first 28 months, we did more than $20 million in revenue, and we were able so my store we're called Chick-fil-A Five Towns, and it sits in an area called Rosedale, but when I opened, 95% of my staff came from a part of Southeast Queens called Far Rockaway. Far Rockaway is one of the most under-resourced parts of Southeast Queens. And I was intentional about hiring from Far Rockaway because I wanted to do economic development in my community. What I believe we need more than anything is opportunity to make money. And, obviously education, because if you earn, you can learn. If you learn, you can earn. If you learn and earn, then you're in a position to return. And that's what I was able to do. I learned, I was earning, and now I could return to my community and put people in positions to economically improve their lives. And so in the 28 months or so we've been open, I've been able to put $4 million into the families that live in Far Rockaway, Queens. The second largest item on my P&L is my labor line. The only thing I spend more money on than people is the food that we use to serve our customers. And so I am, like, that's the thing I'm most proud of. I'm a job creator. I have people that are making more money than they've ever made. I have young people who go, Mark, I want to save for a car. Can I get the hours? And we find ways to get them the hours so that they can get the car. Mark, I want to, one of the ways I measure my success, Charles, is how many people do I get to move from where they are to where they want to be. And, I tell my team, I can't get you to your best life. That's not my job. My job is to get you from where you are. Like if you're bad, I want to get you to good. If you're good, I want to get you to better. but I can't do it without your cooperation. And their cooperation is showing up to work on time, learning, doing what they need to do so that we can be successful as a business.
So not only did, you had revenues upwards of 20 million in the first 28 months, but you also have been honored one of 16, right? 16 persons. One of
In 2024.
One of 16 persons in 2024, just last year. Actually just got the news late fourth quarter last year, and you'll actually be receiving the award this year in a couple of weeks, right?
Nah, Monday, my guy. We go to San Diego, and then we'll get it Monday.
There you go, man. Well, you've been one of 16 recipients of the 2024 Symbol of Success Award that Chick-fil-A does, and I want you to talk about that award, because normally that award goes to about 150 to 200 persons. But last year, you were one of 16. So let's kind of highlight that award and talk about what it is and why it's why it's a big thing, especially within Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. So Symbol of Success is the recognition that Chick-fil-A bestows on its owners and partners when they grow the business 20% year over year. And so normally, like Charles said, it's 100, 150, maybe 200 in some years, where that many operators have been able to grow their businesses 20% or more. In 2024, in a very challenging environment, only 16 operators were able to get that done. And I was one of the 16, and I was one of only 2 in the Northeast region that was able to do it. And I'm one of 3 that look like us. Somebody a young lady named Danielle out of LA, brother named Matt out of Detroit, and then me. And so it's a real honor, a real privilege, real pleasure. It speaks well of my team and the way they perform and the way they got it out of the mud, because it wasn't easy. But it also, is a testament to the community's embrace of me and the business and what we're trying to do inside the community. They recognize and they support and they love on us by showing up and spending their money. And like I tell my team, nobody owes it to us. We have to earn it every single day, because people don't have to spend their money with us. We have to earn their right to spend their money with us.
Man, I think that speaks to your leadership too, man. Like, I think your team, yes, they deserve all the recognition, for the success, but I think your leadership of your team, right, and everyone that you put in place in your leadership, I think it has allowed you to, to grow this business to where you've grown it, to today, to achieve the success you've achieved thus far, man. So kudos to you. I want to celebrate you, man. Congratulations on your award. I'm sure this is just one of many, because I know the type of leader that you are, and to see you make the transition from corporate America to now to being an entrepreneur, and showing that it's possible, and telling this story so that others can see, man, there's ways to do it, right? There's so many different types of entrepreneurs, and you and I had this conversation recently, right? And you said something earlier on that I want to kind of just kind of lean into right now, and it's like, people think that owning your own business and being an entrepreneur, like you're free, right? You're outside of the structure of an organization or a company or a corporation, and you have more time. But like, being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, like, all of your time is dedicated to the business, right? You have it's more like, at least I tell people all the time, like, being in a corporation, there is structure, right? So you're able to follow the structure that is in place for you. Being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, you have to create the structure, right? And that takes time, that takes discipline, that takes sacrifice. So it's a lot more work, man. And seeing you be able to make that transition, and obviously, the type of business that you chose has had a lot to do with it, because there's already a lot of structure in franchising, but there's still a lot of leadership and development that you had to go through to get to this point as well, man. So, congratulations to you and all the success that you've achieved, man.
Thanks so much. And it's true, man. I wish there was a way to counter the narrative that being your own boss is the thing.
Yep.
Because when I was in corporate America, even when I was in GE in a big matrix organization with solid and dotted lines, I would have no more than 2 or 3 people that would be chiming in on my performance and giving me feedback. I'm now the owner operator of Chick-fil-A, and bro, I can get 1,500 pieces of feedback in a day because every customer has a view and has something that they want to say. And so, and every customer now is my boss. Every customer gets to tell me how they are experiencing the performance of my business. And that's different than corporate America, and that's different than what people tell you when they say you're your own boss. You're accountable for everything, as Dr. Henry Cloud would say. You're ridiculously in charge, but there are people telling you what to do and when to do it, and they're your customers. And if you don't respond in productive ways, the door's closed.
Yeah.
So that's why you're not free. I have less freedom because I have a lot more people telling me what to do, but I have the autonomy. I show up when I decide to show up. I stay as long as I decide to stay, and I make the decisions that I want to make the way I want to make them. Nobody gets to tell me how to make the decisions on the culture I want, the leaders I want, the talent plan I want, the compensation plans I want. I get to run all of that in the way that fits my values, my vision, my character, my competence. And that part I really enjoy.
Yeah, man. And I like your approach as well, right? Because you're not only growing a business, you're growing people, right? So everyone that comes into your staff complement and that are able to sit under your leadership, they're going to gain something. At least that's the goal, right? For them to
yes, sir.
To you to transfer everything that the knowledge that you have to them, so that they in turn could take that and create their own success in their own right, man. So I think you're setting a great example. Being able to open a store in the community that you grew up in, I'm sure that's a testament to the journey that you've been on, right? And coming full circle right back to where you were raised, man. I'm sure that's something that you're proud of. You got to be proud of that.
Yeah, I call it playing a home game every day, Charles. And one of the challenges of playing a home game every day, right, is that all your family and friends want free tickets to the game. Right? So that's one of the challenges. But I take those challenges, right?
Absolutely.
Because what I tell my team, and I used to say this in corporate America as well. We have what we call our 6 expectations, right? And the first expectation is that you have a high say-do ratio, that you keep your commitments. But then the second one is that you take pride in product. And what I talk about is you don't just represent this business. Before you represent this business, you represent your family. Like, I'm a Thompson. They can take owner operator away from me. I'm a Thompson. If you never meet my mother, my father, my grandparents, you met me. And I want to be a great representation of my family so that you respect my family. I need you to be a great representation of your family so we respect your family. So take pride in the product of your family so that you show up well every day, and your last name is more important than any title I ever give you. And that mentality isn't always in place with the people we hire. And so it's a process of transformation, but we put the work in.
Nah, man, and I'm sure you're seeing the fruits of that labor, especially within your staff. So kudos to you, man. So, what's in the future? Like, what are your goals? What would you like to see happen, especially in the franchise space, like with your store? What in the next 10 years? Where do you see your franchise?
So if everything goes according to my plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
If everything goes, I'll have at least one more store,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll also have a licensee inside the JFK airport.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I have those three revenue streams, it will allow me to create anywhere from 10 to 15 six-figure jobs. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Using the platform of Chick-fil-A, I will be able to give 10 to 15 six-figure jobs to families who predominantly will be from communities that are under-resourced.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. Nah, man, that's
I love
dope. That's dope.
Love that.
That's dope. And what about you personally? Like, where do you personally see yourself, or where do you want to be in 25 years?
So I'll be 10 years from now, that'll make me 65.
Yep.
And I want to be doing more leadership development kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm using the platform that Chick-fil-A has provided and other platforms to go out and tell this story of entrepreneurship and the ability to own and operate and serve your dominion gift to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And benefit from it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because especially, look, in this moment in time where we're hearing so much about things that the narratives that are being spoken are so untrue, and it could be dispiriting to people that look like us, I want people to see you, me, and others who are getting it out the mud and building sustainable and successful things.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it too.
Absolutely.
You can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, I'm going to make another plug. If you don't read anything else in 2025, read Releasing Your Potential.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that hasn't read it. And if you have read it, reread it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the idea of work helping you refine your gift so that you can give it to the marketplace as a highly developed skill is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you put a highly developed skill into the marketplace responds.
Mm-hmm.
And when the marketplace responds, you get to have your gift deployed and then enjoy the fruits of your labor.
No, man, that's special, man. That's special. Like I say, I'm inspired by your story and just seeing this journey that you've been on, and now the success that you're able to achieve, man. Again, I want to celebrate that and congratulate you on this success, man. So
it wouldn't have been possible without your mom and dad who embraced me
no, for sure.
and called me son too. That's why you're my little brother, and we always gonna keep it tight.
No, man, appreciate that. So let's plug your spot, man. You're in Queens.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let folks know
Chick-fil-A Five Towns.
Mm-hmm.
Chick-fil-A Five Towns, 24923 Rockaway Boulevard, Rosedale, New York, 11422. We do catering. We do, we one of the things I'm really proud of, I work with this organization. Shout out to New York Edge.
Mm-hmm.
New York Edge is the largest after-school program for public school students in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And I partner with them where I have young people come in and they spend an hour or two with me where I walk them through my story, walk them through my journey,
Mm-hmm.
answer their questions. And then for some, it's their first experience with Chick-fil-A as a meal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love being able to do that for them. I also work with Eagles Academy for Young Men and Boys
Mm-hmm.
out of Queens. Shout out to Donald Ruff and his team. They also work with me, and we're actually running the Chick-fil-A Leadership Academy at the school in Queens. And we just love being able to help young people and give a sense of, if you can see it, you can be it.
Absolutely.
And so being able to give them exposure.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the things, Charles, in my 25, almost 30-year career in corporate America, I never had a black CEO.
Mm-hmm.
Never worked directly for a black CEO. And so one of the first things I say to my team is, you are working for a black CEO.
Yeah.
That matters.
Yep.
You're doing something I didn't do.
Yep. Yep.
The guy, my first job, I did my first job delivering newspapers. I did work for a man who owned his own paper route, Mr. Thomas McCune. Shout out to him. But he didn't run an enterprise. He ran a paper route.
Mm-hmm.
So he might have thought of himself as a CEO,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't conceive of him as such. But in corporate America, I never got a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. McCune was a business owner, and he inspired me to do this when I got to this point. And I'm just trying to pay homage to him and all the other entrepreneurs that have existed in this space, that so young people can see it's possible. It's possible.
Nah, man, that's dope. That's dope, man. Well, congratulations again, Mark. Man, if you guys are ever in the New York area and you flying in through JFK, his spot
7
is
to 10 minutes.
literally
I'm only 7 to 10 minutes away.
literally 5 to 10 minutes from the airport. So you take a stop by, check out his establishment, meet his staff, meet the work that you can see the work that Mark is doing. I can attest that it's a great experience. Obviously, the food is good. You know, there's a lot of Chick-fil-A fans out there, so you won't be disappointed. Not at all, man. Well, Mark, I want to thank you, man, for joining me on this episode. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being an encouragement, continual encouragement to me, and now obviously an encouragement to others as well. Want you to keep being who you are, man, because you are a constant inspiration, not only to those closest to you, but even to those who see you at a distance, man. So just always know that. All right.
Thank you, bro.
Thanks
for having me, man. Mama, I made it. I got to the Miles High podcast.
So that brings us to the portion of the pod where I want to leave with you a milestone. Today's milestone really tacks on to something that Mark said earlier, right? And it's simply, when you're in your waiting or your holding pattern, be productive. There are going to be times where things aren't going the way that you want them to go, and you're meeting a lot of challenges, a lot of delays, a lot of obstacles in your way. My empowerment to you, my challenge to you, is to be productive in those moments, right? And to do things productively that you're going to be able to reap the benefits from once that holding pattern is finished and you're able to finally land that plane and move on in your success journey. So be productive in waiting, man. That's what I want to leave with you guys for today. All right. So again, Mark, thank you, man. I appreciate you joining me today. This has been a great conversation, a great episode, and I wish you nothing but success in your franchise, with your family, and everything that you put your hands to in the future, man. So congrats, and love you guys, man. You guys.
Love you, bro. All
right. So
thank you.
So as always, the vision and goal of this podcast is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist, always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right, so until next time, you guys stay blessed.